The first question was about SSRIs, or Selective Serotonin Reuptake Inhibitor. Now, I know a lot of people like to say they're not a good artist when they do these kind of presentations. I am the world's worst artist, as you will find out. At the microscopic level, the brain has a lot of neurons. Looks kind of like this. This is highly inaccurate. Okay. Alright, so at the microscopic level, the brain uses neurotransmitters in order to send signals between neurons. And some of these include serotonin, dopamine, norepinephrine. Those are just kind of fancy words for just compounds that the brain will use to send signals across the space between two different neurons of the brain. And let's change the color. Okay, so for our purposes, we'll call these serotonins. And when the signal comes, these will move into the space and they will attach to a receptor on the other end, which then propagates a signal to continue on. Okay, change the color. Okay, so we believe in depression that the body makes less serotonin. So meaning that in the space between here, there's less serotonin in depression. And the body is very efficient, so when it sends out these serotonins into the space, they will use a reuptake channel to reuse them, kind of like recycling. And that's how we reuse it. But because there's not very much in depression, we've created these drugs called SSRIs, Selective Serotonin Reuptake Inhibitors. And these will block these channels. So they're essentially giving these serotonins nowhere to go, so they will remain in this space here. Now, in the long run, this will eventually lead to more serotonin being in this space, kind of counteracting the lack of serotonin being produced by the body. But in the beginning, what happens is that the body, if there's a lot of receptors, it will sense that there's too much serotonin staying in that space, and it will start blocking these receptors by making less of them. At the beginning, you may not notice any benefits of the SSRIs simply because your body is counteracting that. So that's a common theme in medicine and physiology. The body wants to return to homeostasis. When you push it in one direction, it might do something to try to move in the opposite direction. Now I gotta pick a new color. Okay, so over the course of about 4 to 6 weeks, you start noticing that the body will no longer have that regulatory mechanism by which to reduce the number of receptors. So the number of receptors goes back to about what it was at the beginning. And because there's more serotonin staying in this space in between the two receptors, the net effect is that there's more serotonin, and we believe that counteracts the causes of depression. Now that's sort of a very oversimplified version of it, even though it sounds complicated. But that's sort of the molecular explanation of why it takes several weeks for serotonin reuptake inhibitors to start working, and why your depression symptoms may kind of change in a sort of piecemeal fashion, meaning that at the very beginning, you'll feel the side effects, but you may not feel any benefits. After a week or two, you may notice changes in energy. You may notice changes in your eating or sleeping. And then by the very end, then you may start to notice the changes in mood.